you're a bitch!
So it's 6 o'clock in the fucking morning on the ass end of August, and I decided it's been about 4 weeks since I decided to last record or put out a video on this channel, and I decided to take a break from the internet for a little while, just for a number of reasons, for shit that was going on in my personal life with family and shit, and also just, I haven't taken a break from doing YouTube in a very long time. In some way, I've been wrapped up in this whole YouTube business for, what is it, like 5 fucking years now. I've been in this game for a long time, hey, of helping out other people with their channels and doing my own fucking content. I basically just needed a break, and the one thing that brought me back is probably one of the stupidest subjects that I'll ever talk about on this channel, which is basically a mass murderer calling another mass murderer a bitch.
Watch your clever mouth, bitch.
This has become a controversy, and it's become a controversy in a game that's very close to my heart, and that's World of Warcraft. Why is this such a fucking controversy? Well, there was a quest line in World of Warcraft about 10 years ago. They revamped all the leveling zones in World of Warcraft, they brought them up to date for the time, introduced some new storylines, and one of the new things that was going on during that time period in the game was we had a new war chief rather than Thrall, who was the iconic war chief that led the Horde. Then we got this hothead, Garrosh Hellscream, this absolute fucking asshole who had some redeeming qualities in the first expansions that he was introduced in. Slowly over time, he just became a massive fucking douchebag, like an orcish supremacist who wanted all other races in the Horde to be suppressed or subjugated. There was a quest line in Silverpine Forest where Sylvanas, Windrunner, who is the leader of the Forsaken, I think anyone watching this knows who the fuck Sylvanas is at this point. Around the Cataclysm expansion is when people started to have more mixed opinions on her character, and that's kind of represented in this scene, and I think that's why a lot of people resent this scene, especially since it's something that's been in the game for almost a decade now, if not a decade. I believe we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of Cataclysm, and I remember when everything that came out in that expansion just seemed so new to me, like, wow, we're finally getting these outdated zones and getting updates. It was huge, it was really nice to see that, and now those zones have been around longer than the vanilla zones were around for, and that's absolutely fucking mind-boggling. The only reason I bring that up is to affirm that this quest line has been around for a very long time. And the interesting thing about this quest line, it was one of the very few instances of relatively harsh language. Bitch is not necessarily like the most fucking harsh word that there is in the world. Now, some people think that there's a huge problem with the word, and I'm not one of those people personally. I can see how a lot of words can have negative connotations, and like, sure, you can use bitch in an offensive way, but I feel like in the context of this situation, it totally made fucking sense. And the fact that World of Warcraft has been kind of reserved overall in using swear words, it's something that they really only bring out for moments where it feels like something especially heinous has been done. Even in Warcraft 3, Sylvanas calls Arthas a son of a bitch, and that makes sense because Sylvanas fucking hated the dude. He took everything from her, so of course it would make sense that she would insult him on that level. Warcraft in general uses swear words very sparingly, gives it more weight and impact, and that's why I always felt that Garrosh saying, "Watch your clever mouth, bitch," was such an iconic fucking moment. And, you know, was he being an asshole? Yeah, sure, like, but that was kind of the fucking point. Sylvanas had just done something egregious that was completely comparable to what the Lich King had done. In my opinion, it's morally reprehensible, and even though Garrosh ended up being a huge fucking prick, it makes sense that he would be horrified and disgusted by that because he's disgusted by dark magic. He knows that fell energy was what corrupted his people, and death magic and all those other type of darker forms of magic, they tend to lead towards corruption, and it's kind of ironic he ended up giving in to old god corruption himself. During Cataclysm, Garrosh still had that moral stance that, yeah, fell magic is bad, we shouldn't embrace these types of dark magics, and kind of threw those morals aside during the Mists of Pandaria expansion. He became a huge fucking brutal mass fucking murderer and a racist piece of shit, but you know, that's not that far off from Sylvanas. Now, I wouldn't say that Sylvanas is racist. She did kind of burn an entire fucking civilization, so I don't know. I feel like bitch is apropos in this situation. Calling her a bitch, it's not like Tyrion Fordring came out. It's not like a morally good character came out and was like, Sylvanas, you fucking bitch. It was Garrosh Hellscream, who even in Cataclysm, when he was seen as a more respectable character, he was still a very controversial figure. I feel like that was such a good interaction because it showed that both of these characters have their flaws, but at least during Cataclysm, I could see where Sylvanas was coming from. I could see where Garrosh was coming from. Garrosh wanted more resources for his people. Sylvanas, she didn't want her people to die out and lose their land, so that's why she saw the Valkyr as the solution. And that's why that whole exchange and the whole dynamic between the War Chief and Dark Lady during that whole time frame I felt was very interesting. interesting because they both have these controversial ways of getting around the plights of their people, and even though you can disagree with what they do and their means to get it, you can see why they got there, and going back to change it now, it's so fucking out of place. We actually did get some clarification on the situation from Steve Denuser, who's the lead narrative designer on World of Warcraft. I'll just read out what he says verbatim. Allow me to explain the decision. A team member sent feedback that he enjoyed playing the game with his kid, but when they encountered Garrosh's line, it stuck out from other language in the game. Several of us discussed the feedback and decided to make a change. So here's my problem with this, right? And many people have pointed this out. This is where parenting comes into play. You need to be the one who makes those calls and understands, like, should I let my child play this game or should I not let my child play this game? Are they ready for these types of themes or this type of language? Are they ready for this, that, and the other? That's part of parenting, is that you should be doing that yourself. And I feel like what a lot of people took issue with here is that it's just another case of, will someone please think of the fucking children? Well, this is not a children's game. I understand a lot of younger people do play this game, and that's fine. That's, you know, whatever. Like, I played World of Warcraft when I was a fucking kid. What I'm trying to say here is that's the call of the parents to make. And I feel like if this one parent had an issue with that type of language being said in a game, then you should also have an issue with mass murder and burning civilizations and war. Taliesin actually has an interesting comment that I do take issue with right here, and I want to make a comment about. This is what Taliesin had to say. I'll be honest, there are videos we made like 3 years ago where I find some words a bit cringe, even for us, and I could easily change them than I would. It seems a bit harsh to judge game devs for wanting similar control over their work. Well, here's the issue I have with that, Tally. If you used language in the past that you don't approve of using now, that's perfectly fine. I understand that. I used to say edgier things than I say now. I've come around and I've changed as a person in multiple fucking ways. What we need to understand is, as people, is that times have fucking changed, and there's no shame in having some bad takes or using some cringy words back in the day, because the social landscape in general, everything has changed. How we interact as people has changed so much, especially in the past fucking decade, that the best way to tackle it is not to push it in the past, but to move forward. Blizzard wants to avoid using this word going forward in the future. That makes sense to me. If that's a decision that they want to make, I have no issue with it. But I do have an issue with them going back in time and acting like it never happened and trying to censor it. Or at least I doubt this was going to be made an official statement or anything. They were hoping that nobody would fucking notice and that people would just sweep it under the rug. But this was an iconic moment. Like, I know it might sound stupid to some people, but this was a very iconic moment during that expansion. And I was someone who was really big into the Cataclysm beta. A lot of you guys who were around back during that time, you know that the Cataclysm beta was fucking hype as shit. And people got invested and people really loved the game during that time. People were excited for the future. And then, well, from that point forward, we all kind of know what happened. Like, World of Warcraft got shot down a peg after that expansion, but the hype was really big. This is no doubt an iconic moment in the game's history. Going back and taking it out, it's more about the principle that I don't want to see this type of shit done in the future, because just like I said, Sylvanas has said the word bitch before, Varian in comics has said the word bitch, Garrosh has said bitch, he called Jaina a bitch, I believe in Tides of War he calls Jaina a bitch. I don't get the argument. This word has been used multiple times throughout Warcraft history. Why single out this one exception? Just because a developer took issue with this while having their child play the game, I don't feel like we should have to pander the game to people who want to play this game with their little kids. It's not a game for little kids. Teen rating is there for a reason. It's not E for everyone. This isn't Fortnite or anything. I know Blizzard might want it to be Fortnite, but it's not fucking Fortnite. And it's just a very strange decision, because if you start going down this road, BFA is not what I would call an expansion with child-friendly plot lines. Not at all. Like, BFA does not have any child-friendly plot lines. It's all about death and backstabbing and political sabotage. That's what Battle for Azeroth is. If that's something you would expose your child to, that's perfectly fucking fine. I wouldn't, at least not until they're fucking, you know, teenagers. Like it says on the box, like T for fucking teen. That's just something that World of Warcraft's not so extreme that it's like, it's not all blood and guts and, oh man, yeah, well, badasses shooting guns and all that. There's badass shit in World of Warcraft. Don't get me wrong. It's a teen-rated game. I don't know how to make it any more fucking clear. It's not for little kids. Steve Denuser actually does go on to elaborate, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit too. I'll also read this verbatim. I can understand that many people like the scene as it was. It was a memorable line of voice acting, no question, but at the end of the day, we felt we gained more from removing it than from keeping it. Needless to say, you are free to disagree, because you probably knew that there would be backlash to this. That's why it wasn't brought up officially. Players had to find it out over time. You just tried to sneak it out. It's their game to develop however they want, and I understand that. You know, at the end of the day, it's their decision. The player base can't run fucking everything. I do think that Blizzard, especially with all the good PR that they've generated during this expansion, I don't know why they would throw it all away just for something so stupid. This is making a controversy where there should be none. Why is this a controversial thing going on? Why am I even talking about this? I should be talking talking about how hyped I am for great animated shorts that Blizzard have made recently. It's coming out in like 2 months. That's what I should be talking about. I shouldn't be talking about a lame little controversy, which is just causing a bunch of uncomfortable dialogue to go on in the community. People are at each other's throats over something that was not a controversy for 10 years. It shouldn't have been a controversy. They shouldn't have done anything about it. If they have reservations with a word, they just shouldn't use it going forward. And I don't see any reason to do word policing and tell people you can't say this, you can't do this, you can't think that way. I don't like that. At the end of the day, I'm always gonna stand up against that type of thing. And if you don't like it, then I'm willing to have a conversation, a dialogue with people about it at least. And I'm glad that he at least came out and explained his reasoning. I just completely fundamentally disagree with everything that he said here so far. And the majority of the fan base seems to agree. Most people are either outraged because they don't like the principle of it, and I'm kind of in that fence, but I'm also kind of in the fence of what I think is the majority of people I've been seeing here. And the majority of people are just like, yeah, I don't really care, but that's pretty stupid. And the reasoning is pretty stupid. And I feel like that's the majority of WoW players right now. They don't really care. Or at least most of us can agree that this is, at least the reasoning is very poor and stupid, and it doesn't make any sense in a game with a lot of dark, very dark fucking themes, you know, harvesting corpses and shit like that. I don't have to get into it. You guys know what World of Warcraft's all fucking about. Expansion that we're going into is about dead people in the fucking afterlife and people who died, in some cases, in brutal and disgusting fucking ways, being betrayed by their own fucking students and shit. Like, Warcraft could be fucking heavy. Let's be honest. Like, some of these themes can be fucking heavy. I don't think a lot of us think about that sometimes. Warcraft can get fucking heavy. It says right here, please understand there was no sinister motivation behind the change. It was just people, real, honest-to-goodness human beings, trying to make the game a little better for future generations. And I really don't get that at all. It almost kind of leaves me fucking speechless. Like, I was left pretty much fucking speechless when I read this for the first time, because I do understand that there was no sinister intent behind this. Doesn't seem like they had any ill will towards the player base in mind when they removed this or anything. I think they had good intentions, and that's what kind of worries me about it, is because I don't want this to be a precedent that's set in the future. I just don't agree with his reasoning, man. I don't know how else to fucking say it. Like, I really do not agree with his take on this whole situation, and I really hope that they reflect on this, they take a look at the feedback, they see that most people, even though this isn't like the last straw for them, and I don't think this should be anybody's last straw, it's more just an annoyance than anything else, and it feels tone deaf out of Blizzard during a time where they've taken so much community feedback. They've been so good about listening to what people have to say. Honestly, Blizzard has been so good with feedback that I do have a slither of hope that maybe they'll come out and reverse this decision. They'll be like, you know what, you guys were right, but I doubt they're gonna do that. I generally agree with Asmongold's take, so I'm gonna read what he has to say right here. He says, not a fan. Doesn't make sense to change the dialogue for this, but simultaneously have Garrosh be Orc Hitler. Always disappointing to see narrative decisions be influenced by contemporary politics. And what he said is very true. That goes for Sylvanas and Garrosh. Like, they've both done really fucked up, shitty things, and that's the point I was making earlier. Very fucking flawed. Sylvanas has done things worthy of being called a bitch, and it's not like Garrosh is like some moral arbiter, you know, this upstanding, like, hero. He was also a douchebag. These were two fucking douchebags, in my opinion. I like Sylvanas, and I like Garrosh on some level, but let's be honest, they're both fucking douchebags. They're not like, you know, people that you should look up to and be like, oh, such great moral character. I think that's my fucking rant. At the end of the day, it's not a big deal, but in some ways it kind of is a big deal. If you want to show how you've change the language that you use and improve upon yourself as a person, don't go back in the past and, you know, hide it all. Admit that you're flawed and move forward and be better. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. I know this is a weird video to come back with me bitching about two fictional characters and one getting called a fucking bitch, but whatever. I'm glad you guys listened to what I have to say. In the future, I'd like to get out a scripted video talking about some cut content from Elder Scrolls, but I just wanted to get out here and do a fucking rant because it felt right. This was something that I needed to get off my chest and just bitch about for a while. So, thanks everyone for listening. Stay fucking toasty, and see you guys next time.
Bitch! Bitch!
Bitch.